Hello friends, wherever you are. How are you at the beginning of the month? The contents of your wallet are still safe. Come back with me, John. Only MC and voice actor that everyone dreams of and loves, and is rumored to be Google Voice, and is rumored to use a sophisticated voice maker application, so that it sounds clear even though I always use a cheap mic that is 5 years old. One of the titles of the film DAMSEL 2024 will tell the story of a girl who is about to be proposed to by a prince from a kingdom who turns out to have hidden intentions for the marriage. What's the hidden meaning? Come on, without further ado, put on a headset, position yourself on your back for true comfort and lasting peace of mind. Let's fasten the panties of the person next to you so that your condition remains safe and under control. Enjoy watching and check iCroot, bro. That in ancient times, it is said that there was a first king from a kingdom called Aura, who was hunting a dragon to a rocky mountain, where when they arrived inside the dragon immediately spewed fire, after eating chilies. While the king was left alone, decided to negotiate to stay alive. Hundreds of years later, the story will focus on a girl who lives independently named Elodie, who is actually the princess of a small kingdom which is experiencing an economic crisis, where when Elodie and her sister arrive at the palace, they see a courier delivering a letter from the Aura kingdom containing an invitation, as well as a marriage proposal from the prince of Aura's kingdom to Elodie. If Elodie accepts the proposal, then indirectly she will help her kingdom to recover from the economic downturn that is currently hitting her kingdom. Even though Elodie has not seen the prince's face, and marriage is not a joke, but for the sake of her beloved father and the small kingdom she leads, Elodie immediately accepted the proposal. The next day, Elodie, her sister, father and stepmother, left for the kingdom of Aura, which is located on an island. Using the royal ship, they all traveled for 2 days until they arrived at the kingdom of Aura, which was greeted by thick fog and a quite scary dragon statue. Upon arrival on land, Elodie and her family were taken in a gold-plated horse-drawn carriage, proving that the Aura kingdom is super rich and has abundant wealth. So Elodie's family is increasingly optimistic about improving the economic conditions of their kingdom. Arriving at the palace, Elodie and her family went straight to their rooms and would meet the prince the next day. When Elodie was enjoying the view from the balcony of her room, Elodie accidentally saw a beautiful princess named Eloise, who came from another kingdom, but arrived in this kingdom first. That night, Elodie saw the view again from the balcony of her room, and this time she accidentally saw fire coming out of the foot of the rocky mountain. Who knows who it was, or what it was doing? Elodie was visited by her sister, wanting to sleep together before her sister got married and had her own life. The next morning, Elodie met the queen of the Aura kingdom, whose name was the Queen Mother, and immediately introduced her only son, namely the prince, who would be Elodie's future husband, and because her parents would talk and discuss. Regarding marriage, the prince was told to take Elodie for a walk and get to know each other before becoming husband and wife Sihui. Elodie's father was seen leaving the room after finishing discussing the benefits he would get from this marriage. Who knows what the father and the queen had agreed to? Elodie's father's face looked weak and gloomy, even though from this marriage he would receive abundant wealth in return, even when his stepmother asked for it. What was the result of his meeting with the queen? In fact, his father was silent and reluctant to talk about it. The very curious stepmother tried to approach the queen, who was decorating the wedding. Instead of getting to know his future in-laws better, he was disappointed with the queen's rude behavior and didn't care about his future in-laws' family and only cared about the wedding, which would take place the next day. Unlike other evil stepmothers, this stepmother is very kind and caring towards Elodie, and her stepmother told her to leave after feeling that something was wrong with this Aura kingdom. But it was different. The father still chuckled about continuing this marriage, and the father told the stepmother to not have to worry too much. The next day before the wedding, Elodie wore a beautiful dress like an angel, including body support to stand up straight. Long story short, Elodie and the prince have finished with the wedding ceremony and officially become husband and wife and welcome guests who are queuing to shake hands while giving envelopes while enjoying musical entertainment. Elodie and the prince will go around in a horse-drawn carriage, while their father, stepmother, and sister will go home. Return to their hometown. After returning to the palace, the prince immediately entered Elodie's room. The prince also invited Elodie to the foot of the rock to carry out a blood exchange ritual as a form of ritual to welcome them as new members of the royal family. After the ritual was complete, the two were allowed to return to the palace with the prince holding Elodie as proof of his romantic love. And suddenly, Elodie was thrown into the hole. Fortunately, Elodie managed to survive thanks to the tree branches and roots that filled the hole. After trying to climb and failing, Elodie finds a hole leading to the deepest cave. There he found a burning bird, and suddenly... Yeah, it turns out that this cave hole is the dragon's nest that we saw at the beginning of the film. This dragon can speak like a human. The dragon also spews fire from its mouth again, so... It was also there that Elodie found Eloi's body, which was none other than the girl she saw on the balcony. The one who first became a sacrifice. Elodie's leg was injured by the heat of the dragon's blast, so using her chest support, Elodie tore her wedding dress to bandage the wound on her leg and made camphor body fragrance as a lighting aid.
No.
Without knowing the direction of her destination, Elodie went along the small cave hole until she reached a bright place, which was bordered by a cliff. Not wanting to be trapped in this place, Elodie was determined to jump across and... It turned out that the light in this place came from a living creature like a caterpillar, so Elodie took some of them to use as a lighting device. When Elodie was drinking the dripping water, the dragon appeared and came back to hunt Elodie. So she accidentally fell into the dragon's trap in the form of a hole that had no way out. That's where Elodie found lots of wedding dresses and names written on the stone walls. So it can be concluded that since hundreds of years ago, there have been many victims who have been sacrificed to the Aura Kingdom as food for this dragon.
How many?
Elodie had fallen asleep after realizing that her feet had been surrounded by glowworms, but unexpectedly they healed her feet, which were injured due to burning. So Elodie used the worms to heal wounds on other parts of her body. After Elodie recovered, Elodie saw a map engraved on the cave wall that seemed to have been made by a survivor, thus proving that Elodie still had hope of surviving the dragon's cave. After crawling along the hole shown on the map, Elodie arrives at a hole that is directly connected to the outside world. But the problem is that there are lots of crystals with very sharp shapes filling the hole, so it will be a new challenge for Elodie to climb up there. Elodie accidentally found a crown and used it as a hook and bandaged her hands and feet so they wouldn't slip when stepping on the sharp crystals. And Elodie continued to climb until she didn't realize that beneath her there was a dragon that was opening its mouth, waiting for Elodie to fall. Until Elodie's mind couldn't focus, she accidentally chose a fragile crystal. Yeah, Elodie managed to survive after hooking her crown, where she climbed back up until she managed to reach the top of the exit, and it was really in vain. Elodie's struggle after finding out that this route was a high cliff route with no safe route. But when Elodie felt hopeless, she accidentally saw 4 people riding horses who were about to enter this stone cave. When Elodie shouted for help, a voice was heard. Almost pounced on Elodie. The dragon was distracted by the sound of 4 people riding horses screaming, and it turned out to be Elodie's father and 3 of his men who were on a rescue mission. As a result, Elodie went back down into the cave, and after walking for a while, Elodie accidentally found a place where there were 3 dry dragon eggs, thus revealing the reason why the dragon was angry and became an evil creature. It was because the actions of the first king of the Aura Kingdom had killed 3 of his future children. Not long afterward, Elodie managed to find her father and his 3 subordinates. They kept shouting for Elodie, even though that could lure the dragon to come. This is what happened. Only Dad was left alive, and one person was hiding behind a rock. The dragon told the father that Elodie was still alive, and told the father to ask him to come out of his hiding place, but to atone for his mistake by sacrificing his own child for the welfare of the father's kingdom. Choose death, rather than repeat the same mistakes. When the dragon returned to hunt for people who were still alive in another place, Elodie immediately went down to see her dead father. Then Elodie immediately climbed a rope that led to the exit, previously used by her father and 3 of his men. The dragon managed to realize this, and In the end, Elodie managed to get out of the cave and escaped using her father's horse, but the dragon continued to chase her. Elodie was forced to let go of the horse and hide under a rock. The dragon felt angry and spewed fire from his mouth, so that the entire grassland on this island became a sea of fire, so that to stop the chaos, the queen, who was afraid that her kingdom would collapse, immediately looked for a replacement. He immediately quickly looked for a replacement victim, who was none other than his younger sister Elodie.
Seize her!
Seeing that her youngest stepdaughter was going to be sacrificed by the queen, the kind stepmother immediately went to the hill to tell Elodie about her sister, who was going to be sacrificed. So when she heard that her beloved sister was going to be sacrificed, Elodie, full of emotion, went quickly to take over the stepmother's horse to save his sister. At the same time, the younger brother was at the location of the sacrificial pit, still using the same ritual, namely by combining royal blood. The younger brother's palm was slashed with a knife until the blood came out to be combined with the queen's blood. The prince did not agree that his sister Elodie was too young and thought the queen had gone too far. Queen Mother, whose eyes were dark, immediately threw her sister Elodie into a hole in order to defend the Aura Kingdom. Elodie was late because the ritual had finished and her sister had already been thrown into the cave. But when she heard the sound of her sister screaming, calling out her name, that's where Elodie immediately went downstairs, and Elodie was late because her sister had been taken by the dragon. Finally, like it or not, Elodie had to go back into the cave and jump into the glowworm cave to prepare a trick to lure the dragon away from her sister. And yes, the method turned out to be successful in tricking the dragon so that Elodie was able to immediately save her sister. But because her sister's leg was injured, and the dragon was aware of the trick, Elodie couldn't help but have to face the dragon for the safety of her beloved sister. Yes, if previously it was the dragon who often surprised him, now it's Elodie's turn to surprise the dragon. The brave Elodie was not afraid if the dragon released a burst of fire, but Elodie also had to be hit by a burst of fire and thrown into the water. It doesn't stop there. Elodie, whose size is far below the dragon, has to experience other pain when her body is pierced by the dragon's nails and repeatedly thrown and is gripped quite hard. For the first time, Elodie got up from her fall and accidentally saw rocks, curved, and returned a gust of air in the opposite direction. There the dragon spoke to Elodie and told her a little about the reason why the dragon asked for sacrifice from the children of the nobles of the Aura Kingdom, namely as revenge for the death of 3 prospective eggs. Her child was killed by the first king, so Elodie immediately showed the scar on her palm and explained that the queen had lied to the dragon by mixing their royal blood with the victim's blood. But no matter how much Elodie tried to explain to the dragon still didn't believe him. And this is precisely what he did. Yeah, the dragon was hit by a blast of its own fire, and the curved rocks returned a blast of fire, which made it immediately die. And instead of finishing off the dragon, Elodie actually saved the dragon's body using a glowing caterpillar in the water. Moving on to the palace, right when the prince was holding a wedding ceremony with his next potential victim, and suddenly Elodie appeared walking casually, with a look full of anger. But Elodie was not alone. She brought a new friend, who was previously a frightening enemy. In the end, Elodie, her sister, and her stepmother were able to return to their place of origin with wealth from the Aura Kingdom to improve the economy of the kingdom led by Elodie. Plus now there is a new friend of Elodie's, namely the dragon, who will be a loyal bodyguard to protect her kingdom. There are many lessons that we can learn from this damsel film. For example, don't lie and be cunning, because it can bring disaster. And if you marry because of an arranged marriage, being forced to do something and being cheated out of wealth is not a good thing. And stepmothers are not always evil, and don't be too reckless in taking action. And we have to imitate Elodie, who never gives up, falls once, gets up again, and falls 2 or 3 times. Has to get up again and get up, but doesn't know the fourth.
Adios, gendang telinga gajah Uruguay. Wow.